Hi everyone, my name is Dell. I live in Texas. I guess I should tell you at the beginning, this is the first time I've ever tried to do anything on YouTube, so I don't know how this is going to turn out. But I can tell you that I'm going to try. I could tell you a lot of stories about me because I'm an old man with a fairly good memory. But I don't want to do that today. I just want to talk about one memory in particular, about school bullying. And I want to get this out as early this week as I can because a new school year is starting in America and because school bullying seems to be a bigger and bigger problem all the time. For my part, I had only one problem with one school bully. And it started long before I ever met the bully. I hated school. I hated school from the first day of kindergarten until the last day of the last university I ever attended. I hated everything about school. I even hated lunchtime and recess because they were never long enough and I could never do anything that I really wanted to do. So the school bullies never really had a chance against me. First, I hated school, and they were just part of something that I already hated. And second, I was bigger, and meaner, and uglier, and tougher, and smarter than almost everybody else at school, including the bullies, except for the teachers. For their part, most of the teachers were mean and obnoxious bullies in their own right. This story starts on the day President Kennedy was killed in 1963. That same afternoon, my family moved to a small farm. I was in second grade, and my mom enrolled me in the local school the very next Monday. Ugh! Now there are three things about my new classmates that I should tell you about. First, they'd all been going to school together since kindergarten. They all knew each other, but they didn't know me. So I didn't have any friends. I was left out of almost everything except homework, which turned out to be just another reason why I hated school so much. The second thing was that some of my new classmates were farm kids like my dad intended me to be. A lot of the others were what Dad called city kids, who grew up without learning the work-hard morality that Dad intended to instill in me. Then there were a lot of kids who lived out in the country like we did, but didn't have to do farm work like I did. They wanted to be city kids, and they resented not being able to play with their city kid friends after school. They weren't farm kids, and they seemed to resent us who were farm kids. To them, I guess, we seemed to be unsophisticated cow milkers and hay hands, and barn smells sort of clung to our clothing and in some ways to our personalities too, and fouled the air they had to breathe. Now, the third thing about my new classmates was that this third kind of kid seemed to me to be the worst kind of bully of all. They would tease me and other farm kids because we didn't know what happened in the latest episode of some TV show they all watched while we were milking cows. I guess it didn't occur to them that they didn't know how to milk cows, or prime a well pump, or bale hay, or mend fences either. Well, as time went by, my mom became part of the problem. She seemed to think that my brothers and me should take advantage of all the opportunities that were available to school kids in the 1960s that had not been available to her and her brothers and sisters in the 1920s. So she made sure we joined Little League Baseball and Cub Scouts and 4-H and the school band, and went to every picnic that the church could organize. For his part, my dad seemed to think that we should be content to be farm kids, like he and his brothers and sisters had been in the 1920s. Mostly I just acquiesced to Dad's opinions, and I let Mom enroll me in enough activities to keep her happy too. On the other hand, my younger brother wanted to be a city kid, and my youngest brother was too little to be part of it all anyway. By the way, just so you know, for that and similar reasons, there came to be a bigger generation gap between me and my brothers than there ever was between me and my parents. But back to my story. Mostly because I was a farm kid, I was no easy pushover for school bullies. By the time I was in 5th and 6th grades, I figured I was just about as smart as any of my classmates were, and maybe as smart as my teachers, at least some of them. By 7th and 8th and 9th grades, I knew I was smarter than most of my classmates, and I suspected smarter than some of the teachers. My intelligence didn't show through very much, though, because I was big and clumsy and slow of speech. And that seemed to make me a convenient target for school bullies, especially the ones who did not live in town. The year I was in 7th grade, one of these non-farm and non-town kids, who was a neighbor and 1 year younger than me, decided to have some fun at my expense. After lunch one day, while I was walking across the playground and minding my own business, this boy ran up from behind me, jumped up and grabbed my cap, and he had to jump because I was about a foot taller than he was. He jumped up and grabbed my cap and kept running. Naturally, and knowing how mad my parents would have been if I had gone home without my cap, I chased him. He ran toward the far corner of the playground, about 200 feet or so, and I was probably within about 10 feet of him when he handed my cap off to one of his friends, who immediately started running in the opposite direction. I guess they thought I would chase my cap and maybe even start to cry when I couldn't win their game of keep away. But they were wrong. I didn't chase my cap. I kept on the boy who had taken it. I caught him. I guess he was more tired from running than I was. I caught him and I wrestled him to the ground as if he had been a calf that Dad was about to castrate. I twisted his arm around behind his back, yanked him to his feet, and told him, "Now I want my cap back." He said, "Ow, you're hurting me. Get off me, you big ape. I don't have your stupid cap. You're going to get us in trouble." So I twisted his arm a little harder, and I told him I'd break it off and beat him over the head with the bloody end of it if I didn't get my cap back. He howled again. "Ow! Get off me, you big ox. Besides, I don't have your cap. You're going to get us in trouble." He might have been right about the trouble. In those days, teachers, and the principal of our school in particular, carried around big boards to spank kids with just about any time and for just about any reason they wanted to. I told the bully that he should have thought of that before he took my cap. And even if he didn't have it, he knew who did, and we're going to go back. We're going to go get it back. Then I twisted his arm a little harder and started marching him back across the playground. He had everybody's attention that time. We got to the place where his friend was standing with some other city kids, and they looked kind of surprised that I would be there with their friend firmly under my control. The boy that the bully had handed my cap off to asked what I wanted, as if he didn't know. I told him I wanted my cap back, and as I was speaking, the little bully said, "Give him back his stupid cap." The other boy said, "Here's your stupid cap," and he threw it on the ground. I said, "Here's your stupid friend," and I threw him onto the ground in front of the others. Then I picked up my cap, put it back on my head, and calmly walked away. I never had any more trouble with school bullies after that. not even with teachers or principals, who were the biggest bullies of all. And we didn't get into any trouble over the cap chase either. Now, I don't want to recommend that anyone solve their bullying problem with violence, not even the kind that I used to solve my bullying problem. And since I've been a teacher myself now for a long time, I can say with considerable confidence that most kids don't have enough physical or intellectual wherewithal to solve their problems with bullies the same way I did. But don't you know, and you kids need to make sure your parents and teachers understand this, it worked for me. And I never had another problem with another bully after that. Not at school, not even in the Army, or at any time or any place else I've ever been after that either. I, myself, never became a bully, although I'm sure both of my brothers would probably disagree with that. But I never became a bully. But I never was intimidated by them either. And you don't need to be either.